Hello ladies and gentlemen, and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I am your host, Brett Murphy, and for today's video, I have another brand new top 10 for you all. And I am going to be revealing my top 10 most underrated movies of 2022. So yes, we are continuing our celebration, marking the end of one year and the beginning of a new one. And with that comes my end of 2022 and most anticipated of 2023 lists. And now, before we get to my favorite movies of the year, I felt it was a good time to reveal the movies I felt were the most underrated. Now, as a quick side note, I don't have any clear-cut definition on what underrated is. I'm not gonna define exactly what I'm looking for, and there's no set criteria. Instead, there's a few different criteria. For me, underrated could mean that I don't feel enough people saw it, say if it was a straight-to-streaming movie, or maybe it just didn't make a whole lot at the box office. Maybe I felt the critic reviews were too low, maybe I felt the audience scores were too low, maybe it's a combination of all four. Before I hop into the actual top 10 itself, I just wanted to let you all know that I have an entire playlist dedicated to all of my top 10 videos. So if top 10s are your thing, then be sure to check that out, and I guarantee you'll find something you like. And so without further ado, let's hop right into things. First up, of course, in typical me fashion, I have some honorable mentions. First off is Weird, the Al Yankovic story, also Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, and finally, Uncharted. Because yes, I did surprisingly have a decent bit of fun with Uncharted, believe it or not. And now, number 10, Moonfall. This movie essentially bombed at the box office, which crushed all and any plans that the studio had to actually make this a full-blown trilogy. But for me, this movie delivered exactly what I expected, and that is the traditional, chaotic, over-the-top, but extremely fun disaster movie. The movie makes no sense at all, and there's a twist in the middle of it that makes it make even less sense. The science is way off, but that's not what you're here for. You're here to see cities get destroyed. Essentially, the world is ending because the moon is crashing into it, and that's exactly what happens. Definitely do not go in thinking that you're going to get a deep story with interesting characters or anything even remotely close to that, because that's not here. But this movie is a feast for the eyes and ears. The bass is off the rails. The subwoofer will shake your house, and it is so visually stunning. And I had so much fun just basically watching the world blow up. Number 9, Ambulance. So after Michael Bay delivered what I believe to be his worst movie, being Transformers: The Last Knight, this was very much so a return to form for him. It gave me major The Rock vibes, major The Island vibes. It had great performances from Jake Gyllenhaal and Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, as well as Isaac Gonzalez. I thought they all delivered, if you ask me personally. The action was great. Once again, it is a feast for the eyes and for the ears, just like Moonfall was. And the story isn't half bad either, honestly. My only issue with the movie is a lot of the camera work that often took me out of the movie, but he somehow made an ambulance chase across 2 hours interesting and engaging and exciting for the whole runtime. So yeah, it didn't end up being one of my favorites of this year, but it was a huge surprise for me, and I actually really did have a good time. Number 8, Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. Yes, I know I'm gonna ruffle a few feathers with this one, but I actually enjoyed this movie, okay? The first Fantastic Beasts, I think, is a ton of fun and very underrated. It was a nice return to the wizarding world after a few years off with the conclusion of the Harry Potter franchise. The second one really bummed me out. The Crimes of Grindelwald, I did not think was a very good movie at all. In fact, it's my least favorite of the Wizarding World movies, so I was very skeptical when it came to The Secrets of Dumbledore, and especially with all the controversy with Johnny Depp's recasting. We have Mads Mikkelsen in the role now, but I am happy to report that I actually preferred Mads Mikkelsen in the role of Grindelwald instead of Johnny Depp, and this movie I actually had a blast with. Yes, there are some boring things. Yes, it's not as exciting or anywhere near good as any of the Harry Potter movies, if you ask me personally, but I would say this one is just as good as the original Fantastic Beasts movie, if not even better. So it actually really does make me disappointed that we're not going to get to see this series conclude. The rumors going around are that 4 and 5 have been scrapped, but after this one, I really would have liked to have seen where this story went and how they would have concluded it. Number 7. Death on the Nile. So I never really got all the hype for Murder on the Orient Express. When I first saw the movie, I thought it was just fine. So my hopes weren't really all that high for Death on the Nile. And although, not trying to toot my own horn here, because I'm pretty sure everyone is in the same boat as me, but I guessed immediately, my first guess as to where this movie was going to go and how it was going to conclude was dead on. It was spot on. I knew it right away, as did most people, but surprisingly, it didn't take me out of this murder mystery adventure whatsoever. I thought the cast was even better than the original. I loved the setting, and I really just loved how this story played out. Even though I knew the ending, it did find ways to keep me guessing throughout, and it already has me even more excited now for the already announced next Hercule Poirot mystery. Number 6. Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. So some people might argue that this isn't really all that underrated, but I would, because the reviews are not great. The critic reviews are solid, but the audience reviews are much, much lower than I would have expected, and almost nobody has been talking about this movie at all. I had such a great time. I love the satire in here. I love the messages and the themes and the criticisms of like this generation, my generation really, and the generations that are coming after us. I love the paranoia. I loved the set design taking place in this giant mansion. I thought the performances across the board were solid. And truth be told, I really did not expect this ending at all. And when the ending finally hit, I was shocked, truth be told. I feel a lot more people need to go in and check out Bodies, Bodies, Bodies because I had a hell of a time. Number 5. The Adam Project. It really feels like this movie came and went with almost no discussion at all. The reviews were very middling. Netflix pushed it really hard for about a week, and then it's like they completely forgot about it. I had a blast with this movie. There were multiple moments where I got way more emotional than I expected. I thought that Ryan Reynolds, as always, delivered. I thought he was hilarious. I thought he was charming. I really liked him kind of portraying this older version of our younger hero. And I thought the young Walker Scoble was fantastic, and so did the Disney execs, clearly because he's going to be our new Percy Jackson. I really do feel like Sean Levy directed the hell out of this movie. This movie delivered on the spectacle, it delivered on the action, it delivered on the stakes, it delivered on the laughs, it delivered on the emotions, and it was so much better than I was thinking it was going to be. This is one of those movies where it was like Friday night hanging out, and I was like, well, we'll see what's on Netflix. It was the very first thing we saw, watched the trailer, and then I was like, yeah, let's give it a shot. And then I left being like, wow, why have I not heard about this movie until now? This is so much better than I think anyone is giving it credit for. It's a fun time, a solid little adventure that I think more people should get their eyes on. Number 4, The Gray Man. Now this one is one I am truly shocked about. This movie has downright, like, negative reviews. Don't get me wrong, I didn't think that the story was anything special or original whatsoever, and Ryan Gosling does seem, not that he's necessarily bored, but almost like he's not trying. And I get that's kind of how the character is supposed to be, just kind of this emotionalist, stoic badass, but I just think he took it a step too far and didn't really put that much effort in. But the reason you came to see this movie is to see Chris Evans with that mustache. He is zany, he is over the top, all kinds of goofy, but just as badass and a worthy adversary, and for me at least, I thought the action was spectacular. It is explosive, chaotic, just mind-numbing fun is what this movie is. And I think sometimes people are a little too harsh and a little too critical on these kinds of movies because I think we need these movies sometimes as kind of a palate refresher, just kind of turn your brain off, sit back and enjoy, and that's what the Russo bros delivered on. I thought this action was some of the best this year. Are you looking for the perfect gift for the movie lover in your life, or maybe you just want to treat yourself? Then look no further than the most unique piece of movie art you could possibly have with Movie Palette. Visit moviepalette.com right now and use code BAM15 at the checkout for 15% off your order. And now, back to the video. Number 3, Emily the Criminal. Another one of those movies that just flew completely under everyone's radars. Almost anyone I talk to that isn't a film buff like myself has no idea what I'm talking about when I say this movie. They laugh at the title, they say they never heard of it, they say the title alone makes them just not care and not want to watch it, but this movie I thought was very, very good. The story does get a bit predictable as we dive a bit deeper, and it doesn't really do much to surprise us, but Aubrey Plaza's performance alone is enough to watch this movie if you ask me. And just because the plot is a bit predictable and a bit generic doesn't mean it's not still worth your time. I think it really did nail its more intense moments. There were definitely parts of this movie where I was biting my nails and gripping my seat, and I thought the finale was very well executed. Number 2, After Sun. This is another movie that, unless you're big into movies, you've probably never even heard of, and that's totally okay. This movie doesn't really make its narrative all that apparent. In fact, it really is a movie that it kind of just feels like you're getting a look into someone's memories, because that's exactly what it is. A woman is reflecting on a vacation she had with her father when she was much younger, but now knowing what she knows, having lived a good portion of her life, she is looking back and picking up on all the signs of her father's struggling mental health that she missed when she was a kid. And that's where this movie really hits home. When the movie first concluded, I thought it was just alright, but after its themes and messages and the little sort of hidden things that it shows you kind of dawned on me after like 15 to 20 minutes and got me surprisingly emotional. And that's why I think this movie is worth checking out, because that's what it is in the end. It is essentially showing us how our parents aren't invincible, how our parents have mental health struggles and issues, because a lot of the time parents try to hide those things from their kids. They don't want to talk about it, they want to focus on their kids, and they don't worry about themselves as much as they should, and they don't take care of themselves as much as they should. And as someone whose parents had me when they were very young, I really connected with this movie's themes. And that's where I think this movie truly shines, on top of the stellar lead performances. Paul Mescal deserves all of the praise that he is getting, and Frankie Corio as the young version of Sophie was just simply magnificent, absolutely wonderful, and an up-and-coming star to keep your eye on. So yes, at times it may seem a little dull, it may seem a little unnecessary. Like I said, it really does just kind of seem like you're watching these people's vacation. But it's the little cues you gotta pick up on. It's a young girl coming of age and finding her way in the world, and it's a young father trying to keep a lid on everything that's going on inside his head from his daughter, and those are the things you really gotta pick up on. And once you kind of do clue into all that, then it completely changes this entire experience. Number 1, ChaCha Real Smooth. No, like the title might suggest, this is not a musical, it is not a movie about dancing or anything even remotely close to that. The plot is very simple. Essentially, a young bar mitzvah host forms an unlikely bond with a mother and her autistic daughter, and that is exactly what you get. But this movie is simply and elegantly beautiful. I loved this. This is one of my favorite movies of the entire year. I felt every emotion that every character felt. I loved learning these life lessons with these characters. This movie just kept me guessing the whole way through, and I fell head over heels in love with its story and its characters. The conclusion, depending on who you are, for a lot of people is gonna make or break this movie, and I don't want to get into why, but the conclusion, and I kind of saw it coming, I expected it to kind of hurt my reception of the movie a little bit, but instead it was the exact opposite, and it bumped my score up even higher and made me adore it even more. Definitely one you should be checking out, and the most underrated movie of 2022 in my own humble opinion. So that is all for today's video, folks. Be sure to let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with my picks. While you're at it, don't forget to let me know what your top 10 most underrated movies of 2022 were. If you're a movie lover whatsoever, then my channel is the place to be for you. Be it top 10s like this one, ranking videos, versus videos, tier videos, I have all of that and so much more. With a backlog of already 600 plus videos on the channel and many more on the way each and every week. So if you enjoyed this particular video, then be sure to hit that thumbs up button. And if any of that sounds like it's right for you and you want to see more from me, then smash that subscribe button right now. While you're at it, don't forget to ring that little bell icon. That way you can be notified about all of my latest uploads. And as always, stay safe. Thank you so much for watching, and that's a wrap. Hey you, yeah you, if you made it this far, just know I appreciate you, and while you're here, consider hitting that subscribe button.